Hey everybody, I'm AJ and welcome back to the channel. I hope you have had a nice holiday. This is a space for films that linger and images that haunt, and stories that refuse to loosen their grip once the screen goes dark. Here we talk about cinema as an experience, how it moves us, unsettles us, and reflects the world we're already living in. If you're drawn to films that ask different questions and don't hand you easy answers, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Subscribe and stay a while. There's a lot to unpack. Today we're going to talk about The Long Walk. It's not just a dystopian drama. It's a slow march into the heart of America's relationship with power, obedience, and endurance. It's a film that understands restraint and uses it as a weapon. I was really surprised by this one. I was not expecting it to have so much depth. The story is deceptively simple. A group of young men volunteer for a state-sanctioned walking contest where stopping means death and survival promises the prize. No clear finish line, no real escape, just forward motion enforced by authority and watched by a crowd conditioned to accept it as entertainment. But The Long Walk isn't just about the walk. It's about what happens to people when compliance is framed as choice, when cruelty is normalized through rules, and when hope becomes a mechanism of control. And what makes this film so devastating is its writing. They say you can't go wrong with Stephen King. Well, tell that to anyone that paid to see The Dark Tower. This, however, is precise, unflinching storytelling. Dialogue that feels lived in, character beats that arrive quietly and land hard. The script understands that the most powerful horror isn't spectacle, but the real story. Each line of dialogue reveals something essential: fear disguised as strength, kindness blooming under impossible pressure, denial clinging to the ideal of endurance equals salvation. Now, the writing trusts the audience to understand what's happening beneath the surface, how these boys are being shaped, and ultimately erased by a system that rewards obedience while pretending to offer freedom. And in that sense, The Long Walk reminds me of Lord of the Flies. Both Lord of the Flies and The Long Walk explore how children are shaped and controlled by extreme systems. In Lord of the Flies, the absence of authority leads to chaos, as fear and power turn the boys against each other. In The Long Walk, authority is obsolete, but disguised as choice. The boys volunteer for a brutal system with no real alternatives. One shows savagery born from freedom, the other from obedience. Together they reveal how easily control replaces morality when survival is on the line. The Long Walk has an interesting pacing. It moves forward the way the characters must, and without relief. There's no dramatic release valve, no false sense of momentum. Time stretches with each mile. The tension doesn't spike, it accumulates slowly. The rhythm mirrors America's own slow creep towards normalization, how extreme systems don't arrive overnight, but step by step, rule by rule, until participation feels inevitable. The film understands this is part of the violence. The performances are strong. The cast carries exhaustion in their posture, fear in their eyes, and defiance in small gestures. What's remarkable is how restraint becomes emotional devastation. A shared glance, a joke too late, a kindness offered when it costs too much. And that's what The Long Walk understands with chilling clarity, is that success, in this world, is an illusion carefully engineered by authority. These boys grow up in a country with no real solutions, limited opportunity, rigged structures, and futures already narrowed by circumstances. Sound familiar? Into that vacuum steps a single authority, claiming to offer the answers. Not a guarantee, not safety, just the promise of the prize, and the promise is enough. The brilliance and the horror is how the system frames participation as choice. Not one is dragged onto the road. Not one is forced at gunpoint to begin walking. They volunteer, they sign up. Authority doesn't need to coerce when it can persuade. when it can make obedience feel like ambition. And here's the big lesson, folks. This is how power gets people to do what it wants them to do and go where it wants them to go without ever appearing like oppression. The rules are clear. The dream is simple. Follow the path, don't stop, don't question, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be rewarded. But of course, that dream is false. The prize is never clearly defined because it doesn't need to be. Hope itself becomes the mechanism of control. The farther they walk, the harder it becomes to admit the truth, that the system was never designed for them to succeed. Walking is in progress, it's compliance disguised. And the long walk exposes how easily endurance is mistaken for purpose, how suffering is reframed as character building, how failure is individualized while the system remains unquestioned. If you fall behind, it's your fault. If you collapse, you didn't want it badly enough. And this is the most American idea that the film integrates, the belief that if you just keep moving forward, following the rules, playing the game, success will eventually arrive. And the film truly dismantles that myth step by step. And in the end, The Long Walk isn't just about a dystopian contest. It's about how power sells a future it never intends to deliver, and how people are trained to blame themselves when the dream was always out of reach. And what elevates The Long Walk beyond dystopian fiction is its relevance and clarity. It observes, and in doing so, it reveals how easily a society can accept cruelty when it's ritualized, televised, and justified by tradition. The film understands that collapse doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like order, discipline, and rules everyone agrees to follow. This is a film about endurance as indoctrination, about youth consumed by systems they did not build, and how America often confuses survival with success. Why should you watch this movie? To watch The Long Walk is to submit to a film that refuses to comfort. It asks you to sit with exhaustion, to notice repetition, to feel the weight of inevitability. It's not designed to entertain, it's designed to confront. And its final stretch leaves a quite devastating imprint that's hard to shake. This is a cinema that understands its movement and its future. A film that speaks to where America is, where it's been, and where it may be heading if we keep mistaking endurance for freedom. If this film stayed with you the way it stayed with me, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What moments lingered? What did you make? What did you reflect on? This was a really interesting film. I honestly did not expect to enjoy it so much, and I didn't expect it to have such depth. And again, if you're enjoying these long takes on cinema and storytelling, consider subscribing. It really makes this space stay alive. Thanks for spending a little time with me here. Until next time, keep watching closely and let the stories stay with you. I'm AJ. Take care.